and I decided to make a video about the application process for the GKS-G program or the Korean government scholarship program for graduate students. I applied for this program myself this year, and I decided that it would be great to have at least one video guide sort of thing online in order to make the whole process at least a bit easier for all of the future applicants. Instead of explaining more about the program, you can always go on over to the official website of the scholarship run by the Korean government, which is studyinkorea.go.kr. So if you go over there, you can find everything about the scholarship as well as other scholarships which may suit your taste. It doesn't necessarily have to be this one, but today we're going to be focusing on GKS-G or the KGSP in some cases. So I am thinking of dividing this video guide into 2 or 3 parts depending on how much I end up talking. But in this first video, I'm mainly going to be focusing on the first round of the application process, which is everything from the announcement of the program to the handing in of your documents to the respective embassy and then the interview process. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Everything starts around the beginning of February when the Embassy of the Republic of Korea or the Consulate of the Republic of Korea in your country posts on their website and Facebook page, if they have one, a notice that the application period for this program has begun. In most cases, it's the beginning of February. This year, for Bulgaria, it was the 4th of February. It just depends on the embassy or the consulate in your country. What I recommend doing is searching for a Facebook page, because if they have one, it's way easier to just press the notification button and just get all of the notices that they post online and see them first on your newsfeed. If not, you just have to regularly check their website in the beginning of February. That's when they post the notice. So here I have actually prepared the notice myself. This is how the notice looks like. You get a text which explains what the scholarship is about. They tell you that the deadline is a month and a half later. In our case, it was March 15th. And you get 4 files to download. The first one is the GKS-G application guidelines in both English and Korean. That's 2 files. And then you get the actual application form that you have to submit until the deadline to your embassy. And then you get some frequently asked questions, so make sure to read those before asking your respective embassy or consulate or sending an email to the Ministry of Education of Korea. Quickly going to address the applicant guidelines. It's actually a pretty long file, but you should read through all of it because there are some important guidelines about what documents you should submit, whether they should be translated or notarized or anything like that, whether they need to be originals or not. But I'm only going to focus on the selection procedure. So for the embassy track, one thing that we should mention is that this scholarship has an embassy track and a university track. And the main difference is that when applying through the embassy in your country, you get to choose 3 universities and 3 majors. And the application process is a bit longer, but if you apply through your university, you get a bit shorter application process, but you only get to choose 1 university and 1 major. The first round of selection for the embassy track, which I went through, is one in which applicants submit applications to the Korean embassy, and each embassy selects candidates among the applicants and call them up and ask them to come for an interview, which happened with us. So yeah, you have to submit your documents until a certain deadline. Then, if you pass, you get a call or an email and they ask you to come to the embassy for an interview, after which the quota that was stated in the beginning of the application guidelines file, they announce which people they chose for that quota. For example, this year the quota for Bulgaria was 7 people. After the interview, 7 people were chosen, and out of those 7 people, all of us actually passed the other round. So a lot of people say that the interview part is the crucial one, because after you pass the interview, you're basically in if nothing really serious happens, you know. Now I'm going to go through the actual application form. This is how the first page looks like. It starts with a checklist of all the documents that you have to submit. Some of them are optional, so you don't really have to worry about them. So the checklist starts with an application form, which we're going to be talking about later. Personal statement, statement of purpose, 2 letters of recommendation, the GKS applicant agreement, a personal medical statement, the certificate of your bachelor's degree or your bachelor's degree diploma. In my case, I still hadn't completed my bachelor's degree back then, so I had to get a document from my university stating that I was in my final year and I would be graduating by the end of July. So by the time I go to Korea, I would have my diploma on me. But if you have already graduated, you won't have such a problem. Then they ask for the applicant's proof of citizenship and the applicant's parents' proof of citizenship. This can get a little bit tricky because in my case, the usual proof of citizenship is the first page of your passport. But my parents didn't have a passport at the time, it had expired. So we had to go and make a duplicate of our birth certificates and translate and notarize them in order to send them as proof of citizenship, which proved to be quite a hassle because we had to go to the respective hometowns of my parents. And in the case of my mom, there was some problem with the duplicate because it wasn't really a duplicate, it was just a transcript or something, and we had to go again and we had to pay again. It was just too much of a hassle. Just if you have time, if you're watching this a month or 2 before the application period, just go make yourself and your parents new passports because that's going to be the cheapest and easiest way. Now I'm going to go into the actual application form, which starts with this page. Basically, you fill in whether you are going for the embassy track or the university track, whether you're a normal foreigner or you're an overseas Korean. You choose your desired field of study, for example, liberal arts and social science, science, technology and engineering, or arts and sports. You have 3 fields of studies. Then you choose which program you're applying for, whether it's your doctoral degree or your master's degree. Or the research program, and then you just fill in your name, gender, country, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the more important parts is where you fill in your 3 choices of universities right here. You actually get a list with all the universities and all the majors that they offer, so you can just go over there and choose whether it's a certain university you want and go through the majors that they offer or search for a specific major that you want to apply for. Then you get all the possibilities, all the possible universities you can go to. After that, you have to fill in your previously achieved degrees, which is basically if you already have a bachelor's or a master's degree beforehand. In my case, I actually wrote my bachelor's degree even though I hadn't graduated yet. And then comes the GPA. So they give you plenty of space. They actually give you 4 years with 3 semesters each to fill in. I just filled in the first and the second semester of my first, second, and third year, and only the first semester of my 4th year. Then you have the cumulative GPA. That was a bit tricky because in Bulgaria we have a 6-point grading system, and I just didn't bother to I didn't bother to change it, and I just wrote, for example, 5.8 out of 6. And then you have to turn it into percent, but it's score. It's something out of 100. So you turn 6, for example, into 100, and my grade was something like 97 out of 100. Then you just fill in any previous employment or professional research experience and any rewards or scholarship that you received from Korean institutions. Then comes the personal statement, which is, I wouldn't say the hardest, but it's the part that takes up the most time, because you should really think about when you want to write there. Your personal statement is basically your motivational letter, and you have some guidelines. For example, write about the motivations with which you apply for this program, your education and work experience related to GKS, reason for studying in Korea, any other aspects of your background that are related to Korea. That's what I did for my first draft. I just wrote something like, hello, I'm Millie, I'm from Bulgaria. I'm in my final year of Korean studies program, and I really want to go to Korea, and I really want to study this and that because I'm really interested. And it was just like stating facts. And no matter how many times I read it through, it just didn't feel right. So I sent it to a friend of mine just to check how it sounded, maybe give me some advice. And she was like, it's all great, but I don't really feel your passion. Like, I don't feel why do you want to go so much. So why do you want to go? She just asked me, why do you want to go so much? What drives you? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And then she was like, well, think about it. So I thought about it for like a month, and nothing came to mind actually. So that's something completely normal. But then, you know, some things happen in life that are just meant to happen at a certain time. And 3 days before the application deadline, something like that happened to me. And it made me rethink the actual reason why I want to go there and study what I want to study. And I was like, right, this was the reason. And I deleted everything I had written so far and I wrote it all over again, and I knew I was on the right direction because I basically choked up while writing it because it felt real. And I didn't even bother editing it that much because I just wanted to convey that feeling that I had in that very same moment. So don't worry to write a story of your motivation. It doesn't necessarily have to be just facts about yourself. Next, you have the statement of purpose, which is divided into two parts: your goal of study and study plan, and your future plan after study. So starting with the goal of study and study plan, what I did for mine was basically take my goal of study from my personal statement and just develop it into this space. I didn't really write much more than half a page. And then they ask you to write about the title or subject of your research. You don't necessarily have to write a title, and even if you do, you can always change it, so you shouldn't worry about that. I just wrote about the direction I was planning to go into because I wasn't really sure what I was going to research about, and they want a detailed study plan. Now that confused me, so I searched online, and the only thing I found, and one of the reasons why I decided to make this video, is that the only person who actually talked about it did it 5 years ago. In what this person said was that he basically wrote how he was going to get up at 7 a.m. and then he was going to go and work out, and then he was going to go have breakfast, and then he was going to go to lectures, and he was going to study really hard, and then he was going to go have lunch and then study even harder, and so on and so forth, which was that was kind of too much for me. So I basically once again wrote why I want to study the major that I was going for, and I actually talked about how I was going to utilize the sources that I would be getting in Korea that I couldn't get my hands on in Bulgaria. So for example, all the sources in Korean that we didn't have here in Bulgaria, but now I would be able to get my hands on. While for the second part, they're asking you for your future plan after graduation. And here it basically says your future plan in Korea or another country after studying Korea. One thing I want to advise you is Don't be afraid to say that you want to return to your home country or go to another country after graduating. That's what I did because that is my plan for now. I will be going for the international cooperation major in Yonsei University, and the most natural thing is for me to want to return to Bulgaria and work on the international relations between both our countries. So yeah, I wrote that as my plan A. Another thing, don't be afraid to write about a plan B or plan C even if you haven't thought them through yet. It's good to have a few plans, a few backup plans. For example, my plan B was continuing to work with Korean, for example, maybe teaching Korean or something related to Korea with the experience that I have gained teaching English, for example, before. So that's a thing that you could write. Anything that comes to mind, any possibility is okay, I think. Then I'm going to skip the research proposal because I didn't write one, that wasn't for the master's degree. Then we have the recommendation letters. You need 2 recommendation letters from your professors. You need an original copy and 3 copies for each of the universities that you apply for. All of them have to be sealed by the professor themselves. You can't take a look at them beforehand. There is a form that can be completed by your professor, but if they have their own, they just can hand in that. Letter of invitation is only for the research program. And then you have the GKS applicant agreement, which is basically 15 points that you have no choice but to agree to. Yeah, and you put your signature. Last but not least, you have the personal medical assessment, which is basically you answering questions like, do you have allergies? Do you have hypertension? Do you have diabetes? Are you pregnant? So you answer with yes or no, and if it's a yes, you explain what's the problem, if there is one. You should also say whether you're male or female, state your height and weight. I didn't really know mine, so I just wrote something around what I thought it would be, but it's best to measure yourself. And yeah, that's it. That's basically it. So after you have filled in all the forms, you will need 3 separate copies of each one of them. And one thing to note is that you should label all of the papers on the top right corner with the name of the paper and the number from the checklist. Do that before you copy the papers instead of doing it after, like me, and doing it for like 2 hours because you forgot to do that beforehand. And yeah, you just have to go to your respective embassy and hand it in before the deadline. After that, you wait for around a week, and if you have passed this round, they're going to give you a phone call or an email inviting you to an interview with the rest of the candidates that passed the first round. In that interview, you will meet 2 to 3 people, I guess. A person from the Ministry of Education, most probably, a person from the Korean embassy, and they're going to be really, really friendly. Even if you think it's going to be scary, believe me, it's not scary. What you can do in order to prepare yourself is just look over through your application form once again, because what they ask you is basically what you already wrote, because they check that beforehand. And they just ask for more details. Why you want to go to Korea, why you want to study what you wrote. If you have went to Korea, they may ask you about your experience there, how it was. So yeah, nothing out of the ordinary, and it will pass pretty quickly. And then you wait for another week, and they announce the final 7, in Bulgaria's case, the final 7 candidates who are going to be passed on over to the second round. In the second round is the actual medical assessment, which we are going to be discussing in the next video. One thing that you guys should note is that the specifications for the application process change every year. So do not take most of the things I say for granted. You should always read through the guidelines carefully, or if you're not sure about something, always ask your embassy, because things change every year, and some of the things my seniors told me about the scholarship changed, and I didn't have to do some stuff, but I had to do other stuff. So yeah, just definitely check with your embassy beforehand. If there is anything else that you're curious about, you can always leave a comment below. subscribe in order to see my next video, or if you're curious about my life as a Yonsei graduate student, you can wait a month or two more and you will be able to see some of the videos of my daily life uploaded onto this channel. So yeah, I guess that was about it. See you next time. Bye!